What's up, guys? Welcome back to another For Those Code video. In this video, we are taking a look into how we can create a simple stepper components with our React and TypeScript. Most importantly, we won't be really making the use of any libraries out there. Instead, build our handcrafted steppers component from scratch. To achieve this, we'll be using a React app created with Vite and Tailwind CSS for styling, and let's also take a look at what we are building. So we are building this particular simple application just covering the stepper components, which is step 1, step 2, and step 3. And you can see I can type out the name here and also some email. So let's go ahead and type out email. And also we can add phone here. So if we go ahead and inspect it, and we can see our form field values has been consoled and printed out here. So you can make the use of these values in each steps, or in the third step you can use all the values that you want and have your logic that's running on. So let's clear this out and let's hit on next step, and let's also go to the next step. And completing the third step, you can see check conditions or push to a new route. So this is the place where we could check our condition and push to a new route, or whatever logic we have in the application. So this is the pretty much simple application that we'll be building together with Tailwind CSS, Vite, and also using some UIs that's really available to us. So we'll be diving into Hyper UI, which is the free UI Tailwind component that's built from ground up, and that can be used in any project, and we'll be using this with check icons. Alright, I'm Ishan, and in this channel we discuss and learn new skills around the topics of design and development. If you want to grow your skills and learn new things that are coming up, please subscribe for more videos just like this. And don't forget to smash the like button for me. This really helps me to create more content. Let's get started. So let's go ahead and get started with Vite, and inside here we should have this particular command. Let's go ahead and copy that command. Let's go to our desired path and directories and hit npm create Vite add latest and hit enter. And for the project name, we'll be naming this project React Steppers. And for the framework, we will be choosing React. And for our variant, we will be using just TypeScript. And after that's done, let's go ahead and enter that particular directory and also install the packages that we need. Meanwhile, let's go ahead and open it inside of our IDE, and let's get into coding using Vite. Let's go to get started with Vite, and we have pretty much all the commands that we need here. So probably for the production we should probably stick with pnpm, but for now we'll just use npm. It doesn't really matter. So let's go ahead and hit enter. And for the project name, let's call it React Steppers. So we have opened up inside our desired IDE, and taking a look at this, we should install Tailwind. So let's go ahead and quickly install Tailwind. To install Tailwind, we need a couple of commands. For example, npm install -d tailwind css post css and auto prefixture, which is referenced from the official Tailwind doc. I will just go ahead and paste what's needed. And also, meanwhile, we need this particular command, which is npx tailwind init-b to initialize our tailwind config.js file. So let's go ahead and paste it as well, and let's go ahead and copy this tailwind config.js, which should be inside of tailwind config.js, and let's go ahead and replace everything right in here. And also we probably need the tailwind css file, and let's go ahead and copy the index.css and paste it inside of the index.css. So let's remove everything from the starter files, and also probably let's remove this as well. So we don't need app.css, but app.css is used somewhere in the application. That's okay. Let's go ahead and save it, and after that's done, we can use our particular Tailwind classes inside of our components. So to test it out, we will just remove everything that we see here. So let's go ahead and remove the steppers, I mean the use-state hook for now, and also let's remove everything here. And let's spin up our local server with npm run dev and take a look at our application. So we can click on 5173 port, and it looks like Tailwind is working. So let's go ahead and check this, and it's working. All right, so Tailwind is working, and first of all we need to define some of the components that we need for our steppers. So steppers could be step 1, step 2, and step 3. There are 3 components. So let's go ahead and define the major wrapper, which is the stepper, and we will create step 1, step 2, and step 3 component. So first of all, let's go inside of our src. Let's create a new folder and call it components. And inside that particular component, we will create a directory and call it application steps. So inside of our application steps, let's create a file and call it step1.tsx, which is React functional component, and let's call it step 1. Export const step 1, and let's use step 1 there as well. And let's also create a new file and call it step2.tsx, and probably let's copy this, or let's call it step 2, and let's add step 2 there. So now lastly we will have 3 steps. That's why we need 3 steps of component. So step3.tsx, and let's also rename this to step 3, or lowercase that, and step 3. All right, so our step 1, step 2, and step 3 component are inside of application steps, which is great. Now let's also create a new folder inside of components and name it steppers. And inside steppers, let's create a new file and call it stepper.tsx. And also we need to create another file and call it index.tsx, so that we would export everything inside of steppers inside this particular file. And inside of our steppers.tsx, what we want to do is we want to define a component or React functional component and call it form stepper. And let's write form stepper here, and probably we should import that particular form stepper that we created inside our index.tsx, and let's export default from steppers, so that would be, let's add default there, and hope this will remove these squiggly lines, and it does. So after doing this, let's go ahead and probably use this particular form component, form stepper, inside of our main app. So to access that particular stepper, we can go to our app.tsx, and inside this app.tsx, let's go ahead and import all the component that we have created, which is stepper, stepper 1, stepper 2, and stepper 3. So now let's go ahead and use this particular steppers inside of our component here, which would be stepper 1, stepper 2, and stepper 3. And before using all the steppers, I'll just add stepper 1 for now. All right, looks good, but we haven't imported these steps, which we will import sooner. All right, so with these all in place, we are pretty much ready to go to our stepper. And before we continue, we need to have our some state, presuming some state. So we will import 2 hooks from React, which is use memo and use state hook from React. And this is the app where we need to keep our track of the application, that which step is currently being visited, or in other words, we need the active current step. So we are making the use of use state, and making the use of use state, calling active state and set active state to mutate this piece of state. So let's also define a couple of steps so that we can access that particular steps inside of our constant and call it step with the use of use memo hook. So let's also add a use memo hook, which we imported before, and this use memo hook will be a simple function which is an array of object, and that would contain step 1, step 2, and step 3 that we imported previously. It's yelling at me because we haven't really accepted the props that we need to pass from step 1, which is the change active step. So we will figure that out as well. Write our logic for active step. We can write it right now. So active state is a constant where we take in the step value, which is a number, and if step value is greater than is equal to steps.length, and this total number of steps is this step, and or step.value is less than is equal to 1, then we set the active step to this step value that's received through this parameter into our set active step. So after that's done, we can now go ahead and accept these prop inside of our step 1, step 2, and step 3, and the constant, and call it active component. So this particular active component also uses use memo hook, because we need to know that which component inside of this use memo, which is this particular component, and this particular component are being displayed in the UI. So active component would also be use memo hook, and which returns the steps.find the value, and the value is equal to the active step, and a dot component, which is this. We are taking this property, or null, and if active step and step changes, this particular use memo will rerun. So after this being done, now what we can do is we can go ahead and use this active component inside of our return statement right here. So what I want to do is I want to replace all of these return with a piece of div where we'll be accessing the stepper, which takes in steps, active steps, and change active step as a prop. Also, we added active component, because which is the active step component that we are taking a look at should be rendered in the UI here. So after that's done, the only thing that we need to do is go into step 1, step 2, step 3, and receive change active step as a prop, because it's not accepting as a prop. So let's go to step 1. So inside of our step 1, we also need to make the use of use state hook, and also define our interface for our props. So as said, this particular component, which is step 1, would receive a prop which is named a change active step, and that change active step will be this particular prop type. Define this as React functional component, and the type is iStepProp, and also we want to destructure and receive change active step inside here. And for now, we just add that particular change active step right in here so that it doesn't yell at us. And also we need to make the use of these use state hook. So to make the use of use state hook, we are introducing forms inside of step 1. So inside of our form, what we have is we have 3 properties to stay simple, and the 3 properties are name, email, and phone number, which is defined as interface of iForm data. name string, email string, and phone is string. All right, so after that's done, we can go to our step 1 and also define a use state hook so that we could preserve all the state from our form data. So let's go ahead and create a constant form data and set form data using the use state hook typed as iForm data, and name, email, and phone are the fields that we are handling. Now also we need to go ahead and return the form. So I'll just grab in the code that I've already written, which is this particular snippet where we have the button, the handle input, and everything that's here. So we have a form where we will be listening for the onSubmit handler, and we haven't created this particular onSubmit handler, which is called handle submit. And inside here we have a couple of tailwind classes, and this particular input will have a value of form data.name. So that would be this particular thing, which is form data name, form data email, and form data phone. And we are listening to the onChange event, and also all the form fields are listening to the same onChange event, and the value is accessed as dot notation. And ultimately we have a button, and that is type submit, which says next step. So there are a couple of things that we haven't created here, which is the onSubmit handler. So let's go ahead and introduce the onSubmit handler inside of our code blocks here. So we'll create a constant and call it handle submit, which takes an event of type form event HTML form element, which returns void, and we are preventing default just to prevent form from refreshing. And also let's console log the form data and change steps to 2. After this is done, our handle submit is no longer throwing an error. Instead, we have the handle input change. So let's also go ahead and create that particular function and call handle input change. So handle input change would also take an event and returns void, and we are destructuring name and value from event.target, and setting the form data of previous data, spread it out, and add a new property of name and value. So with this we are pretty much okay, and there are no errors here, except we are okay to move forward. That's fine. Let's go ahead and save this step 1, and also let's go to step 2. Now inside of our step 2, as we discussed before, we are importing iStepProp from step 1. So I'll just replace everything here. So we from the step 1, as you can see from the step 1, we export interface iStepProps, and this particular thing is accessed from here. And we also imported React, and this inside of step 2 we just have a bunch of text and a button which calls change active step and have an argument of 3. So change active step is also a prop that's received here, and the type of the prop is defined here, which is exported from here. So in this way we can click the button and change the active step to the third step inside of step 2. So let's go ahead and save it, and let's go and move to step 3. So inside of our step 3, we need to import a couple of things from React and other resources that we created. Import iStepProps from step 1, we exported and also import React. And this particular thing, which is step 3, is a React functional component. So let's define its type and also use this, because this would be accepting this particular prop, which is change active step, and that particular change active step will be called in a function, and that particular function is complete steps, which will call this particular prop a change active step and pass an argument of 4. So we can handle any logic inside here, but just to demonstrate that all the steps has been completed and we want to check the conditions or push to a new route. So after this is done, we can finally go ahead and copy our UI with the form button that's here. So let's go ahead and paste this one out. By the way, this is all taken from Hyper UI, so I haven't written these templates myself. So and lastly, the most important thing is the button, which has the on click and which calls this particular function that we created. And this particular thing is defined here, and we call this change active step for calling this particular function, and add any logic inside here. So after that's done, we have the 2, 1, and 3 steps completed. So now let's go ahead and close this 1, 2, and 3. And if we take a look at our code here, this says that, okay, that's gone. And after that's done, probably we are pretty much ready to take into look at the stepper component, but we haven't really dealt with the stepper yet. Okay, so to deal with the stepper, we can import React, and also let's go ahead and import some icons from React icons. So I'll just also install React icons, npm I React icons. Also, let's go ahead and define the interface prop that's stepper receives. Okay, so the interface prop that the stepper receives there are a couple of properties. For example, active step, steps, and change active step, which takes in a parameter of step, which is a number, and returns void, and steps is an array, and I've added any. I tried to avoid any, but it yelled at me. Active step is a number. So let's go ahead and define this particular form stepper, and this form stepper, which is this constant we created, is a React functional component of which takes in the data kind of form stepper prop, and which receives which is destructured. We destructured active step and steps, and we check that each step complete variable or constant, and which takes in current step, which is a number, and if active step is greater than current step, we know that the step has been completed. And in regards to that particular is step completed, and we have added and removed styles on basis of that particular constant. Each step completed takes in the value, which is the map value with steps.map, and the steps is just all the steps that we saw here from the use memo, and we are mapping it out and taking the value and the label out of it, and the key is the value, and we are adding and removing some of the styles with conditional styling with the help of Tailwind inside of our component. So is step complete, and we have the value. We'll add this particular class, else we will add this particular class, and there are a couple of classes that we have added. So as this is not a Tailwind lesson, we won't be really diving into that Tailwind classes. And let's go ahead and reformat this, and eventually let's also export form steppers. All right, after this has been done, we can go ahead and inside of our app we have imported steppers, and inside steppers we have passed in the 3 prop that it will receive: steps, active step, and change step. And if we take a look at this, active step, steps, and change step are here. So it looks okay. So this is pretty much it. So now let's go ahead and save it and see it in action. Npm run dev, and let's go to our localhost, and we can see that our first step is being selected because we added the conditional styles to our forms. And let's add some emails and some phone number, and we can see that the form data is being submitted. which is great. We are in second step when we can obviously add form data inside of our second step, but we won't be adding a form inside of second step, just a bunch of static text. Go to next, and we can see our reviews from customer, also taken from Hyper UI. And if we click on next, we can see check conditions and or push to a new route. So which means that we are successfully we have done the steppers, and we are checking whether we are in step 3 and changing the step to step 4, but we don't have a step 4. And but we could add some conditions and logic or push to a new route after we handle everything inside of step 4. So you can introduce any logic. For example, we can have form fields or any checkbox, radio buttons, or whatever. So this is how we can introduce, and we can work around with the simple form component with React, TypeScript, and Vite. So guys, in this video we learned about how we can create a simple looking form, good looking form with Vite, React, and TypeScript using Tailwind CSS. I hope you learned something new from this. If you want to learn more around the topics of design and development, please subscribe for more videos just like this. Don't forget to smash the like button for me. This really helps me to create more content. Thanks a lot guys. See you in the next one.